July 25th, 2015. Today, mourners are gathering to lay Sandra Bland to rest. Her death is being investigated as a homicide. In the turn of events that led to her death, we know that on July 10th, she was allegedly stopped by State Trooper Brian Encinia, who claimed that she failed to use a turn signal. He then accused her of becoming combative. Now, I'm following social media and I'm following what people have to say, and this is my own opinion. What I saw on the unedited version of the tape was State Trooper Brian Encinia get out of his car and approach Sandra's car. He began asking her questions, which Sandra responded in a firm tone of voice. They went a little back and forth, and then it was clear that Sandra was annoyed that she had got stopped. And she began to smoke a cigarette. One thing led to another, and the next thing you see is Sandra being forcefully pulled from her car and threatened by the state trooper that he would light her up or something like that. Sandra then begins to say that she can't hear because her head was slammed against the ground, and the state trooper answered by saying, "Good." We see Sandra then being led into a police car. Next thing we know, she's dead. And as the days go on, we get detail after detail of what could have taken her life or who could have taken her life. Before I say anything else, I have to say the obvious. Bland was not naive to police brutality. She spoke out against police brutality and racial injustice. She was a firm believer in what it is she spoke about and what she stood for. Now, I don't condone police officers, state troopers, or whatever they call themselves these days, coming up to someone's car and threatening them or making them get so hostile that you want to then accuse them of disorderly conduct and of being irate. But at this moment in time, no black person should test a police officer. Now, had I been in Sandra's shoes that day and I got stopped, no matter what that officer accused me of, I would have let him wrote me a ticket or tell me whatever it is he needed to tell me. I would have been polite. I would have been courteous. Inside, I would have been boiling mad, but the only thing that would have been on my mind is that if I make one wrong move or say one wrong thing, I'm going to make the breaking news report. I'm going to be on the front page of someone's newspaper. Sometimes you have to humble yourself in situations that are crazy, situations that could easily get out of hand. And if you know that you're a black woman and you know that there has been numerous crimes against black women, then you might not want to get crazy. You might not want to smoke your cigarette, and then when the officer tells you to put it out, you say, "No, I'm sitting in my car." You might not want to do anything that will allow him to threaten, to tase you, to throw you out the car, slam your head into the ground. you might want to just do what you need to do to see another day. Now, no, that state trooper is not God. He didn't have a right to treat Sandra the way that he did. We know this. But the problem is, Sandra was by herself. She was alone. She didn't have an audience. She didn't have no one there to help her. She didn't have anyone there to side with her. To say, you know what, you are treating this young woman wrong. You are violating her rights. So she should have complied to be able to see another day. And later, after she got that ticket, she could have fought it in court, had the state trooper called in, let the video show that she complied, and then she can argue her case that he was wrong in stopping her in the first place. Black women, what you seem to forget is that the same white supremacy that builds you up to be a menace to your children, to throw your black men in jail and leave your black men for dead, is the same white supremacy that has now flipped the tables on you. They don't care about your life. They don't care if you're an upstanding citizen. And they definitely don't care about you if you are speaking out against police brutality and racial injustice for your people. Now, what happened to Sandra? We won't know. We won't 100% know. But what we do know is Sandra made unsuccessful attempts for family and friends to come and bail her out, to help her out. And what we know is that Sandra was still in jail. Now, I'm going to be honest with you when I say there's no way that you can call your sister or call your mom or an uncle or a cousin or a best friend and you let them know the situation as to why you were arrested. And not one person would do whatever they needed to do to get you out of there, to get you out of harm's way. Now, we all know that daily we hear of some kind of police brutality against black men and women. So once my sister or my aunt or my mom would have called me and said to me, listen, these are the circumstances, I'm here, get me out of here, I would have been doing whatever I needed to do to make sure that my loved one got home. Now, I'm not blaming Sandra's family or friends at all. But what I'm saying is that that's your loved one. I'm pretty sure she let her family know that her head was slammed against the sidewalk. I'm pretty sure she let her family know that the officer threatened to tase her. I'm pretty sure she let her family know that the officer was being forceful and verbally abusive towards her. That alone should have sent anyone into shock to do whatever they needed to do to get their loved one home. But now we're hearing that they didn't get the phone calls. Sandra Bland's friend Levon Mosley claimed he didn't notice the messages or the 2 missed calls, but later describes the voicemail she left as haunting and chilling. No, how about you tell the truth? How about you say when you listened to the voicemails and you heard that she was in jail and you heard that she needed bail money, you ignored her voice messages because you didn't want to be responsible for bailing her out? How about you be honest with yourself so that her soul can rest in peace? Regardless of what we want to believe, And regardless of what justice is reached in these unfortunate circumstances, what we do know is whoever is responsible for Sandra Bland's death will ultimately pay. They will ultimately have to answer for killing her. But when I hear from Sandra's former inmate and that she tells CNN that Sandra was despondent in her cell because no one was returning her phone calls, I then begin to think, what if Sandra did kill herself because at that very moment she realized that her friends and family who she loved and who loved her didn't love her enough to bail her out of jail? Maybe they waited around because they thought that the police would eventually just release her. Maybe they thought Sandra would be fine with just staying there until her time was up. I don't know. But what I do know is that Black people do not stick together. Black women do not stick together. And that is why the enemy can strike whenever he or she chooses to. You have a woman in jail crying her eyes out because all she wants is to be bailed out because she knows that she's not in the wrong. She knows that she didn't have to be stopped. She knows that she shouldn't be sitting in someone's jail cell. And she's calling her family and her friends to bail her out. But instead, no one's returning her calls. And you want to know how I know? Because in one of the recordings, Sandra said, "It's me again," letting me know that she had called other times and got no response. She's leaving voicemails. Not one of her family members or friends are calling that jail and saying, "Why is my sister in jail? Why is my friend there? What does she do?" Nothing. Nothing. But then she dies and you immediately go and find the money to grab an attorney because you want justice. Let me be honest with you. Black lives do not matter until a police officer takes the life away. Black lives do not matter as long as they're black on black crimes. Black lives do not matter unless a white man takes that life away. So yeah, Sandra's being buried today. And what happens tomorrow, next week, and next month? Who's going to be the next hashtag? Who else are we going to be asking for justice for? Who else are we going to be seeking justice for? We pretend to care. We pretend to want to take a stand. We pretend that we are all about our people, when in reality, the enemy would never, ever be able to do such crimes, commit such crimes against us if we stuck together, just like every other race. I'm saddened by this. I've even had nightmares. And I've never even met Sandra Bland. Never met her, but she's in my dreams. She's in my head, as if I did. Because all I could think about is if my sister called me and told me even 1% of that story, I would have been on the first thing smoking to save her, to rescue her. Can you imagine that no matter how Sandra Bland died, she probably died feeling that nobody cared about her? Just imagine what that must feel like. We don't know how she died, but what we do know is that she was wrongfully stopped, she was wrongfully arrested, and she was victimized by that state trooper. Everything that happens after that is speculation, and we are waiting for answers that may never come. You know, as much as I want to keep the focal point on Sandra Bland, I'm well aware that there are 14 other black women and even a child that died at the hands of police officers who we don't see hashtags for, who are not mentioned. We don't hear about them, we don't hear about their stories because their deaths wasn't sensationalized through the media. So many of us have no idea that there were so many black women killed at the hands of officers. You know, that's why they say you have to learn your history, you have to educate yourself, you have to educate yourself on who you are. Because if you leave it up to white supremacy to tell you who you are, you will be on your knees begging and pleading for them to accept you every time. And every time they are going to turn you down. These people are killing your loved ones, your family, your friends, and are getting off. They are writing checks to your family to shut them up, to stop them from protesting. What they are saying to you is, here is some money so that we can kill someone else within your communities. But you don't see that. Once these families receive their check, we don't hear from them anymore. They disappear. We don't see them anymore. And it's a shame. It's a shame. I just know that I'm very grateful for living. I'm very grateful for my life. And I don't care what it is that I face in my life. I don't care about my downfalls in my life. What I know is that I'm very grateful to have my life. I'm very grateful to wake up every morning and to be present in life. And I would never put myself in a situation where my life was taken away from me. I would never be in places where my life could easily be taken away from me, and I would never get stopped by a police officer and give him any reason to shoot me, to hurt me, to harm me, to belittle me, to slam my head against the ground. I don't care how much it hurts. I don't care how much I know that he's wrong and I'm right. I'm going to do whatever I need to do that second to live another day. Sandra was brave. She stood up against police brutality and racial injustice to the very end. But I don't know if that makes her a hero. You see, because if her life was taken away from her because she felt the need to fight for her people, and her people does not change, then does that mean that she died in vain? Does that mean that her picture that graces our social media pages is all for nothing? Does it mean that white supremacy wins again? If you're going to post pictures, if you're going to make comments, if you're going to do anything in memory of Sandra Bland, then change the way you act, change the way you respond to each other. Forget white people. Forget police officers. Change the way you deal with each other. Change your attitudes towards each other. Begin to respect each other so that way the enemy doesn't feel comfortable disrespecting you. They're on the outside looking in, and one thing that they know is that you pick up a gun quick enough to blow off your fellow black man or black woman's head. They know that you don't respect each other. They know that you won't help each other in times of need. And I can bet that those police officers at that jail, correctional officers, they probably said, this is nothing new. They were probably laughing at Sandra, who initially said, I'm going to call my lawyer. But one thing that really rubs me the wrong way in all of this, it makes me think, is because I feel like if they were going to kill her, why would they allow her to make so many phone calls to her family and friends? How did they know that her family and friends wasn't on their way to the prison, to the jail? See, these are things you need to think about. Because a killer is not going to say, you know what, let's let her call everyone she knows, everyone whose numbers that she remembers, so that she can get some help and get out of here. I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking outside the box, and maybe I'm trying to see things. Maybe I'm trying to see all the possibilities that could have led to her death instead of just jumping on the bandwagon and believing what everyone else believes. Well, I'm a little upset about everything. I'm angry. But I'm not in denial. This has happened so many times. So many times, and we've all been witness. Sandra herself has been witness to a man being killed by a police officer, to a woman being killed in the hands of a police officer. She witnessed all of this until her demise. All I could wish is that she could have handled it better. But that wish makes no sense because she's no longer with us in this physical world. But if anything, and if we respect and appreciate and care about what it is that Sandra Bland stood for and stood up against, then let's not let her death be in vain. Let her be the woman that had to die so that we can know exactly what it is we need to do for ourselves and for each other. Let her death simplify not allowing white supremacy to get into our circles. Sandra speaks, and hopefully she will continue to speak through each and every one of us. And we are appreciative for her putting her life on the line so that our loved one can live to see another day. Thank you.